Hello and welcome. My name is Danielle, and today I have a very special guest with us. Her name is Leah, and she's a contributing writer with Radhaa Publishing House in the upcoming book, Stories of the Goddess Divine Feminine Frequency Keepers, a very special book that highlights the divine feminine. And this book is very empowering and inspiring and is contributing to the world in a way that will help bring courage and determination to women who listen with their hearts and follow their inner knowing. We are at a great time right now where the rise of the divine feminine has been occurring. And unfortunately, for millennia, we've been very suppressed in hiding our gifts. So here we are to break free and really reclaim our inner magic and offer a glimpse into the world of possibilities to unite the divine feminine and the divine masculine, to work in harmony with each other and to raise the humanity into a better place. So, with that being said, I want to welcome you, Leah. It's such an honor to be here once again with you.
So great to be here, Danielle. I'm so stoked to have this conversation.
Yeah, this book is really special. It feels like a movement, and I know this has been happening with a in a lot of different ways, and it's such a great time to really share your voice and express in such a unique way, especially with the path that you've been on. So, before we dive into the book a little bit further, could you tell us how the journey connected you to the goddess and what brought you here to this point?
Yeah, well, actually, it was you. It was through you that I received the invitation, and when that invitation came, it just felt so aligned because I had already been on a writing journey with my own personal memoir about my relationship with Kali. That was the goddess that was so present with me at the beginning of my big spiritual awakening journey. And so when the title came through, it was just like, of course, I want to be part of this because I do have a story of that relationship of deepening with the goddess and becoming my own version of the goddess that is really emerging right now across the whole globe, like in so many different ways across many cultures, and her face is so diverse. But yeah, that was really the part that led me to this, and to know that there was other women who had similar stories that may be very, very different. I just wanted to be a part of this collaborative project.
Yeah, and it was really kind of one of those moments where I saw you and I thought, she has that frequency that, must be shared. And it felt so intuitively inspiring for me to bring that to you. So I'm glad that you answered the call. And that's what we were looking for, women who were ready to answer the call. So, embodying that divine feminine, how has this impacted your life and the work that you currently do?
Yeah, it's really everything. It's one of those things that once you meet the frequency of the divine feminine, which was, as you said, so hidden for so long, and uh, you know, basically not in our consciousness at all. At least for me growing up, I did have that understanding of what feminism was, but it wasn't that divine piece that was so connected to the earth and connected to all of the wisdom that kind of lived in those liminal realms and those symbolic realms that only just began speaking to me in recent years. And so as I began to dive into what this frequency was about, then all of the signs and synchronicities and themes started coming through for me, especially in relation to my body, my blood, and my connection to the mother and my own mother. And so the story that I bring through is really about that intersection of all of those pieces. It was kind of a challenge to boil down a few things from a longer memoir that I was writing, but it's a snapshot of something that was really powerful for me, of how I came through a very difficult time in my life that was a huge turning point for me, that I think is part of the initiation of the goddess, which is going through that dark night and having to navigate your way through a lot of unknowns and a lot of those moments where we're being asked to release our previous life or our comforts or the things that we don't want to let go of, which was my particular challenge and initiation. But as I went through that, that's when I found Kali. That's when I found the Dark Mother to guide me through that, the bardos of our psyche, of how we can really emerge without needing to rely on so much outside of us, but to find that within and to resource from the earth and to find that energy that really is there to support us, also by understanding that the aspects of ourselves that we probably don't like, the things that we're not proud of. And in my story, it was my betrayal of my ex-partner that was really the catalyst for me to look at those parts of myself, and also to look at those parts, those patterns that lived in my lineage and my mother, and all of the ways in which there was another level of betrayal. And sort of making peace with that and coming back full circle and understanding that there was medicine in all of that was really important for me. But without the guide of the goddess, without Kali to come into my life, to shake things up, to burn things down, to cut things away, and really like just kind of ruthlessly, throw me out of the tower, it was that piece was really powerful for me to find something within that I could claim as my own, which was my own embodiment journey, which was dancing again and singing again and moving again, and allowing that part, and also breathing. That was another key piece that I include in the book, is my journey in breath work, and how that also unleashed an aspect of me that I didn't even know. Like it was this crazy unleashing of the wild primal aspect of me on behalf of the collective, I believe, to awaken us, to open us to this understanding that, wow, there's been some massive perpetrations and betrayals that have occurred to us as women, and how do we heal that? How do we move through that? Sometimes it just is a crazy loud cry in the middle of the breathwork circle and seeing a demon fly out of your mouth, and crazy things happen that I was like, what? But I also knew, like, by embodying Kali, by bringing her frequency into my life and welcoming it, even though it really felt scary at times, I was allowed to truly go there into those places and grieve the way that we need to grieve, or to make peace with something and do the forgiveness work and all of that is really necessary for us to move on as we ascend and begin to embody more and more of what that goddess aspect is. But it's not all light. There's a huge dark aspect to it that I think is really key. And so that's what I've been called to bring through in this particular chapter.
Wow, that's so powerful. I really understand deeply what you're saying, and I feel a lot of women can relate to in their own unique way as well. It's very, I want to take a second to just really acknowledge the fact that you faced and you looked at it and you had the courage to go deep, because that is part of the healing, as you know. And there's so much liberation when you're able to really overcome that and feel so deeply into something. And then, as you walk across to the other side, you realize, wow, this was needed. And who else can I assist in this process? And it truly is a frequency, because for me as an empath, I just feel like I tune into what I'm feeling, and I can never always, I do struggle with putting words sometimes to what I'm feeling. And this is why it's important to honor yourself in the process. So I really appreciate that you are so vulnerable to open up and share this. And even if you had to condense it a little bit, because I know you have a memoir coming out in the future. However, whatever you share, I know it's going to be so perfect and so needed at this time. And the frequency and the essence will only ignite further. And of course, guys, you can look Leah up online. You never know in the future what she's going to release, and find her memoir down the line. And
Yes.
women who are now starting in that process of where you were once at, like what would you offer to them as a tidbit of advice coming from the person you are today?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, but honestly, we're so guided. We're so guided, and the way we're guided is so unique. Our guides come from all different places, whether you think of them as like your spiritual support team or your inner support team, as within, so without. It's all here, and it really requires this honing of this quality of listening, this practice of actually tuning in to all of the symbols and signs that are coming to us. And that's an important part that I want to highlight again, is that the feminine speaks very differently than the masculine. she speaks in this mythopoetic voice, and it's non-linear, it's archetypal, it's metaphorical. And when we lean into that and we start to see things in that aspect, it's actually beautiful because it opens up our creativity. It allows us to make those connections and to look at life in this through the lens of theme, and when those themes are coming up so clearly and we see it happening on a collective level, like even just the color red, you know, what does the color red mean to you? Like when you look at your blood and when you understand, you know, the root energy, and all of that is so powerful because it in and itself has a code. And there's so many codes being fed to us now, even just in looking at a flower. Like, why is it that rose is the symbol of love? Like, it's just, there's something that is transmitted across like into a different dimensional reality that we're also a part of, but we can actually filter through in the form of art and creativity. And there's a message that's way deeper than what words can speak, although words can be very powerful as well. But it really is this aspect of us that when we really embrace what's coming to us and begin to frame everything through the lens of story and through the lens of like we're living a real movie, and we're directing it at the same time. We have the ability to use our free will to make choices and to look at where we're putting our attention. Like if you don't notice it, if you're not practicing through meditation, just observing and sensing your environment, those keys aren't going to land in. It's not going to be as, it's, you know, not going to be as magical, really. And so the more I started paying attention to everything that was being shown to me, everything that was being communicated to me through this non-linear, what I call mythopoetic lens, it just made so much more sense. And I was just leaning into it and being like, okay, maybe for someone else that wouldn't matter, that synchronicity or that thing I saw or whatever, maybe it's not a big deal. But for me, it's a big deal because it's actually connecting a very powerful line of dots to create this constellation that is allowing me to make more sense of my life. And as we're emerging into this new dimensional reality, and we're all kind of in the middle of the birth canal of so much shifting on the planet right now, it's really important that we have those very human anchor points that we can come back to as signposts of like, wow, we're all on the same hero's journey together.
Yeah.
It's maybe a heroine's journey as well. Like there's different versions of it. But at the end of the day, there is going to be some kind of challenge that you have to triumph over. However that presents itself is going to be your own unique flavor of that. But as we go through that, we have to ask ourselves, like, who are the ones to guide us through? Who's that intervening mentor? Who's the one that can help us make sense of this new unknown world that we're all finding ourselves in? And for me, that was the goddess, that was Gaia and her many faces. And that led me on the priestess path and, you know, devoting myself more to really understanding how to work with these energies, because they all want to support us. They're also benevolent. And even the ones that are batshit crazy like Kali, you know, she's still benevolent. And that was also part of my healing with my own mother, understanding that maybe all the tiger mom parenting that I had to experience, which I have an immigrant mother, and it was definitely like quite a challenge growing up to relate and to, you know, have the cultural, you know, trying to be in many worlds of pleasing a mother from a different culture and then being in this new North American culture, coming through all of that, realizing that, yes, it's all needed, because if we don't include everybody in this whole conversation, then it's very myopic and it doesn't actually look at all the ways in which we are very, very alike, even if we all come from different places and lineages and different ways of being raised. All of that is kind of bringing us back into this unity consciousness of like, what are the through lines? What are those things that are always going to be present for all of us, no matter what we've experienced in life? And that, I think, is so important, because we are coming together right now at this very pivotal time so that we can support each other and continue to relate to each other through story. And a story has always been the glue that you know brings culture together. And that's why I find it so important that we do tell our stories and that we
Mhm.
collaborate with each other in this way. It's so beautiful that, all of us have been through something that has changed us at such a deep level that it really has now become medicine. And there's more where that came from, right? Where there's another memoir on the horizon. I'm already thinking about the next one. And I find it really a beautiful way to also integrate everything that we're experiencing. Because if we're just always moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. And, yes, there's maybe an opportunity to journal here and there. But if we're not actually going back and looking at things with this, artist's lens to actually make something beautiful of it so that someone can actually receive it on the other end, because no one's going to read the journal but you. But if this chapter in a book or this memoir or even just insights that are coming through in a nonfiction way want to be written and expressed, that I find it takes a little extra energy, but going that way is so worth it in the long run, because you then leave your legacy and your legacy lives on beyond you. So I find that, we kind of forget sometimes that there's another generation coming up behind us, and they are learning way faster than we are. It's all like, common for them to be like giving their blood back to the earth. But for me, it wasn't. And so that turning point for me was important. So yeah, hopefully that helps. I know that was a lot, but that was what the goddess wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I love that you shared that. And again, I do believe that these challenges are what really grow us as a person. And so there's definitely a lot to be said. We have had so many experiences up to this point in our life, and it's valid. And I'm grateful that women like you do the work so we can, share that aspect of our leadership side that is ready to speak and share. So at this point in the game, being that you're so active, and I know that you are very involved in communities, so could you share with us a little bit about why it's so important now to have that connection with sisterhood and community, and overall just be, I guess you would say, someone who's leading the way as a leader and of service to others?
Thank you for that. And thank you for that recognition, because yeah, it's always edgy sometimes to find yourself in a certain place of leadership or, taking up a certain amount of space. But I think now it's the only way through is co-creation. Because we've learned, the lone wolf method it doesn't make us happy, and I had that experience when I was running a clothing business, and I thought I had to muscle my way through it and prove to everyone that I could be a girl boss, and it totally burnt me out, and it was something I had to completely let go of and let die. And what emerged from that was, being in circle, being in ceremony, being amongst other women in sacred space. And that felt so nourishing to me, because there was many forms of sacred space. It was online Zoom things or just a one-to-one conversation. Like, it doesn't have to be a formal event or anything, but it's really just witnessing and the presence thing and the space holding that happens in those spaces is what our soul needs, because it's been so long that we've been starved of this, and this is what was taken away from us. The first thing they went after was our gathering, the gathering in the sacred red tent, and all of the different ways that women used to exchange wisdom, because that was how we amplified our magic, was by coming together, and how we also supported each other in all the different phases of our lives and all the different rites of passage that we all had to go through, and not be afraid of the next step or the next phase in life. And it was just this thing that just became so painfully obvious that those initiations have not occurred, especially in Western culture. But when we gather together and allow ourselves to witness again what it is that we're all passing through, it just allows us to have the power of the one that went before, and the one who's and also to empower us to support the ones that are coming up. And now I just know that it's a force, and it's not just women, it's men too. And we're creating these amazing communities now. And I've been really, really on the ground witnessing the creation of conscious community, especially here where I am right now in Costa Rica, where I was in Egypt, and across the whole world. We're all realizing that the old matrix system doesn't support us. And it's also, not the easy way. Because when you're actually sharing resources in this beautiful way that at its core has this foundation of trust, and that we know that when we give, we're going to receive, and that it's just going to continue to move in that direction. It's going to be amplified through our sacred action of just like contributing however we need to. It allows us to then not have to carry the whole burden ourselves. And, many hands make light work. And so I'm seeing things come to life very, very quickly right now. And it's because it needs to happen. The new earth is being built just in front of our eyes. And there's so much beauty that's coming through because it's like a new ancient way of living. Like we've always been tribal. We've always, had these smaller communities of maybe a couple hundred people that, when we actually invest in those relationships, then we know like someone has our back, and then it just becomes really easy to connect the dots. And there's some amazing connectors that I've been able to become friends with that have just led me to the most amazing experiences, and to find the right people to collaborate with. And all of this is just happening right now because it's the fun way, it's the easy way, and it's the only way now because doing it by yourself just sucks. So
Yeah, I like that. I totally understand what you're saying as far as the lone wolf, because I did spend quite a lot of time just kind of in my own, room researching and going down that rabbit hole. And there does come a point where you're like, well, I deserve to have this, that support. And that's what I love about the divine feminine. In that respect, it's almost like you learn how to receive, and that brings in more and more and more. So I think that's absolutely beautiful, and I'm so glad that you've had these experiences, because the women who are just starting out or currently already on the path are going to resonate no matter where they're at in the journey, because you've already kind of been in the process, and alongside of many of the women who are in the book. So a collaborative book's actually really unique. I really like how we're able to bring that energy together and kind of have a different frequency in each chapter. So what do you hope that the readers will take away when they read your chapter?
mm. Just a acknowledgement that it's okay to make mistakes, and that when we also look at the medicine that's in making peace with all of that, and being okay with everything that's happened to you, especially when you were raised and how you were raised, like I mentioned before, is really important. And really for me, having that relationship with my mother, because my chapter is very much about healing my relationship with my mother, and it's changed so much because of the epigenetic ancestral work that occurs when we're in that devotion to making right by that maternal line. And when we do that, we access all the wisdom of our ancestors, and it's so powerful. So really, really in that regard, it's just like, ask yourself, like, what is my relationship with my mother, and how can that be something that I lean into and maybe look at more deeply in terms of what's there for me, what is there that might not feel great to lean into at the beginning, but when you actually dig deeper, there's so much value in doing the forgiveness work and allowing yourself to just be a witness to the humanness of all of it. So yeah.
I love that. That's really special. And it says a lot about, the relationship you have with the divine, at that. And I'm so glad you're here, because I do feel the value of what you're going to share is going to help a lot of women. For people who are not, on that path of writing, or maybe in like kind of secretly going down that possibility for themselves, what advice would you give to someone that's looking to do collaborative books? And overall, for example, Radhaa Publishing House, like, let's say they did work with someone like them, what kind of experience might they have from what you've experienced in that setting?
Yeah, Radha has been really great to, number one, bring us all together, create the project, and then it's like creating the architecture of what we're putting together, but then what gets filled into that space is up to us. And that's what I love about it's actually divine masculine and divine feminine coming together. And that's what creates the most powerful creations. And also the support that we all got when, at the beginning of the process, right? Because we're all at different levels of writing, and writing is a craft. It's something you have to own. It doesn't just start out like perfect, right? Like I've had to revise my chapter like 12 times, and I was already writing before that. but that's a thing that is part of that process. And having someone to support you and guide you through that process, having the workshops and the monthly meetups is so key, because then you realize you're not alone in this, and it's part of the journey. And it's not about being perfect, and it's not about having that, shiny thing right away, because the perfectionism wound is a deep wound, and something I've been having to personally work through a lot. Also because of how I was raised. So everything comes full circle, but it's in leaning into just doing it, because you don't get good at writing without writing. That's
Right.
just the key of it. So, and also like the discipline and getting back to the page over and over again. And, a short chapter, 3,000 words, is doable. It's doable for anybody. And it's a nice stepping stone to someone who might be wanting to create a bigger project, and have that, and also have the support of a whole team of people, so that you can actually get your book out and have your name on, a book, which is huge. And it matters, because not only is it a confidence booster, but it also, so great for promotion and marketing, and being able to say yes. And it's not just about saying it, it's like actually about doing it. and then like living the reality of being an author, because also there's so much that comes from that, because I also know that if you're an author, you're probably also a speaker, and you probably want to be on podcasts, and you probably also want to have, other kinds of engagements, or offer workshops, or do all sorts of beautiful work. And it's like this whole package that starts to open up a possibility of this new career, this new self-generated, um, you know, uh, Dharma path, I'll call it, that wants to unfold. So yeah, it's a huge piece. And I know that Radha is, because Radha herself is so anchored in this frequency, and she knows the whole why, and the greater reason for pulling these beautiful divine feminine leaders together. It's already supported through that architecture that she's created as a foundation, and what gets built on top of that is just like another amazing level and vantage point that we can all look out from. So we're like essentially building a building together that's a dope temple.
Gosh, I love that. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sharing, because I love your perspective, and I really do resonate with what you said, because we've been a part of this process together. And I know that we don't have much more time left, but I do want to let you guys know that this book was actually pre-launched today, and we've already hit #1 on Amazon, which is really cool. Just got to keep that momentum going, but right now it is available, so I'll be sure to link all the information down below, and including where you can find Leah as well. And if you can, before we head out, can you share with our viewers everywhere they can find you and how they can get in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Flow Priestess everywhere. Flowpriestess.com is my website, and I'm on Instagram at Flow Priestess. I do offer a lot of support for creators. So I have a course called the Embodied Creatrix, and it's an 8-week chakra attunement calibration sequence that goes through every single thing that might get in the way of you birthing your sacred work into the world. It's really my passion to support people who are wanting to leave their legacy and to bring true evolutionary keys forward, because we all have these special codes to offer. And as we unfold and bring ourselves into this like new magical world that we're living in, I just know that everyone's contribution is going to make such a big difference. So that's what I'm all about. I also do energy work, but yeah, it's so much fun to be in this space. And I look forward to connecting with many of you.
That's so beautiful. All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you, Leah, for being here today and showing up and being that leader that is inside of you and leading the pack with all of us. So until next time, guys, be sure to look down below where all the links are, and we'll have it all available for you to get in contact. Bye for now.
Bye.